Welcome to ACC Nation. That's Will Ogenin, and I'm Jim Quist. Hey, lighten one up, man. Hey, it's good to be back. We have been taking a little bit of a break, necessary mental break. Sometimes it's just the way it is, you know, and we have the option to do that. That's the nice thing about this. Unfortunately, we're not always around for certain things that are going on, but we're back.
And you also can't expect a random power outage to like affect the recording night.
Yeah. What can I say? That was weird. That was truly weird. Anyway, let's talk about football, man. We've got a lot of great football coming up this season in the ACC. This is going to be, I think, a spectacular year. We've got new coaches, got new looks, we've got a new feel. The impact of NIL, the transfer portal, all kinds of stuff. And we're going to start out by taking a look, Will, at the 24/7 recruiting rankings for 22 first, and then kind of get a feel for where we think teams are going to be in the fall. And while we're at it, we'll throw in some thoughts on what we've seen so far with spring football, because there's been some kind of ups and downs there, and some maybe not what we expected. I don't know. It's sort of hard to say. You know, spring football to me is just sort of like an exercise of getting people out and getting fresh air and getting used to the system, and, you know, getting the cobwebs out. By the time they get into late summer and then early fall, before they actually start playing, that's some serious stuff right there. That's when I'm going to be paying a lot more attention. So let's start. Let's take a look at the top teams. According to 24/7 for 22 recruiting, Texas A&M is at number 1, Alabama 2, Georgia 3, Ohio State 4, and Texas 5. And I just want to put an asterisk beside number 5, Texas. That asterisk is me laughing anytime Texas is mentioned about anything.
Well, Texas is back, you know, in the same vein Miami's been back for the past whatever, but Texas is never felt necessarily to the level that Miami did, but, you know, everyone keeps thinking they're going to be that team that makes the rise, and lo and behold, here they are winning 7 games with tons of talent. And hey, they didn't even have a player drafted in the most recent NFL draft either.
Okay.
I don't think that's happened, you know, within the last decade or so too, where they've gone to draft without getting somebody getting drafted. And even with the transfer portal and all that, you would think, you know, they get somebody drafted. Nope, nobody. Big fat goose egg.
Yeah, it was an unusual NFL draft though.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about it, and Chris before while it was like going on, it just felt off this year.
Yeah,
it just wasn't that like big name, you know, that like elite level Trevor Lawrence gonna, you know, solidify the position for the next decade type player. And we were saying, you know, nobody knew who the number 1 pick was going to be even going into the day of the draft. And then we find out, and they're like, it was like, he's not the best player.
That's it.
And then you remember, oh, it's Jacksonville, and this is why they've been picking in the top like 5 for what feels like forever.
And it's like Cleveland. They've wasted every one of those picks. Well, except for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
As long as yeah, go ahead.
And then they drafted Etienne, but obviously he tore his ACL preseason, so we don't know how that pick's going to play out. But
I think that'll play out well. I
still think it was funny that Urban was taking Clemson guys with his first picks.
Oh yeah,
couldn't even coach one of them. Seeing he ended up getting canned before the season was over because everyone realized how much of a bleep hole he is.
Yeah. Hey, you hit it on the head at the very beginning. Can't coach.
Correct.
Hey, you know, and something I keep hearing all this stuff about going back to Fox or whatever to please don't submit us to that.
Who watches?
I'm not going to listen to them.
Yeah, who watches Fox's college pregame anyway?
Not me. I
barely watch ESPN's as it is.
I'm not going to. I will go out of my way to turn if he's on. I'm not listening to any of that. So, where do the ACC plus one teams stand in the 2022 college recruiting rankings by 24/7? Well, the top dog there is at number 7, Notre Dame. At number 10, it's Clemson. At number 11, it's UNC. Number 16, Miami. Number 21, FSU. 34, Virginia Tech. And number 40, BC. And those are the only teams that make it into the top 50 from the ACC plus one. So Notre Dame, I'm maybe a little surprised here, but maybe not. I mean, this is sort of a carryover. I tell you, you're really going to find some interesting information on Notre Dame in the latter half of what we're getting ready to do. That's where it becomes intriguing. Right now, let's not look at Notre Dame. Let's look at Clemson at number 10.
Well,
is what it, there's a couple of ways to look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a result of bad play, or is it something else?
Well, I don't know if it's any of those things necessarily. I mean, I just think you're seeing, if we saw for the first time, a team like Texas A&M have one of the greatest recruiting classes of all time. Mm-hmm. Because they pretty much got every 5-star defensive lineman that was out there, what felt like. And then, Bama's going to be Bama. They're always going to be there. Georgia, same way. Ohio State, same. Texas, yeah, they're generally going to be up there. Penn State had a real nice recruiting class. So obviously, we'll get into Notre Dame in a little bit. Oklahoma, they are consistently top 10. Michigan probably got a little bit of a boost from the way the season ended, from the way the season went.
I think so, yes.
And then, Clemson still at number 10. It's not like they, I don't think it was a horrible class by any means. I mean, some of it is because they only took 20 commits. They only got a couple of 5-stars out of it. And maybe that's what hurts the rankings. But what really stands out is the name you need to know, and it's someone we'll get more into a little later. Cade Klubnik, who was the gem of this recruiting class, the number 1 quarterback, who we will see take snaps at some point this season, whether he be in packages specially set up for him at some point, or he just flat out earns the starting job over DJ Uyunglele at some point. He's the one to watch from the Clemson recruiting class. Obviously, they're loading up on a lot of good positions. Obviously, they got a couple of highly touted corners out of this class. Offensive line. They got a lot of defensive players in this recruiting class. Obviously, Clemson has been a bastion of putting talent in the NFL on that defense, especially on the line, for several years now.
Okay. This is a good explanation for, and there is one thing that I think everybody tends to forget. And we talk about this every once in a while. Having all top 5 recruits, I mean, it's a nice thing, mm-hmm. but it's not a guarantee.
Right.
So,
and especially nowadays, a lot of them want to see the field right away. And with the opportunity with the transfer portal and the opportunity to, be able to, leave and not have to sit out a year, that makes, the ability to find that spot where you can play right away a lot easier. And obviously they don't really do that at Clemson, but they tend to prefer the people they have in house. As much as people want Dabo to kind of change his ways, I just think he is very stuck in his ways on it.
Oh yeah. If it works, why mess with it? Why tinker with it?
Yeah. Don't fix what isn't broken, I guess.
That's right. Well,
at least in his eyes.
it needs, everything needs tweaking from time to time. And
Mhm.
I think he's seen that, and he's made some adjustments. He's probably a little more flexible when it comes down to transfer portal. I mean, there's
Mhm.
discussion that he needs some people in certain positions, and he's going to go after them through the transfer portal. About 2 years ago, that would have been sacrilege, from his standpoint. I just don't think he was just not into that. That
Mhm.
was just not his thing. He didn't he didn't like it. He didn't agree with it. But like everybody else, you look at the reality of what's going on in college sports. You've got to adjust, or you're going to be pushed off to the side.
Mhm.
Um, he is much too young and too dynamic of a coach to be pushed anywhere anytime soon. So
That's true. And we should say he did kind of sort of use the transfer portal to get his old quarterback back, but he's third string at best, so doesn't really count.
you know, uh,
I don't think so.
it is well, it is what it is, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, interesting take there on Clemson. At number 11 is UNC, and Mac Brown has been doing a really good job of recruiting for North Carolina. Now, putting all those pieces together on the field has been a slightly different sort of picture, and Mac came in with a lot of really super talent, and a lot of that talent has now gone. So that surge, I wonder if that surge is going to be actively replaced here in the next 2 years with the 22 recruiting class and the 23, whether or not North Carolina is actually going to rise to what everyone expected them to be. And I don't think they actually achieved that, um, especially past year. But the year before that was a nice surprise. It was a pleasant return of Mac Brown and North Carolina to playing football.
Yeah, and this is going to be obviously we'll get more into North Carolina this season at a later date, but you talked about, yeah, they were top, what they were number 11 overall, brought in 2 5 stars, top 20 players, and Zach Rice and Travis Shaw. Rice from Lynchburg, so not far from Charlottesville, pulled them out of the backyard, and then Travis Shaw's an in-state kid. But they have what North Carolina has done really well is net with both Virginia and Virginia Tech kind of being on down a little bit. They've gone in along with Penn State, and they're just rating the Commonwealth of Virginia for its top players and just kind of leaving the scraps for everybody else.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time because Dre Bly had a lot of success recruiting in Virginia, and obviously that hasn't changed. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, they've done a really good job of filling some holes. The issue is it just really doesn't feel like it's all necessarily translated onto the football field.
Yeah.
And obviously they lost a very good quarterback in Sam Howell, and we'll see how that all melds into this season.
Well, the NFL has I think, um, a really an up and coming star in Howell. I think he has been underestimated by an awful lot of people, and the fact that he went so late in the draft tells me that people um, looked at the team's season more so than they looked at the quarterback. And that's the kind of guy that I would love to have on my team. I think he's a solid quarterback. I think he's somebody who's going to be in there for quite a long time and really deliver for whoever is, you know, engaging his services. Um, I bluntly, I was very surprised by Kenny Pickett going as high and being the top ranked quarterback being picked as high as he was. Um, I I just, I don't know if I were to put those two guys side by side, I'm not so sure that I wouldn't go with Hal first before I would go with Pickett. I just think there's more upside. That's me.
I was always high on Howell, and I don't think last season was a lot of his fault.
No.
Like his offensive line was horrible
Oh
in
yeah.
front of him. He had to run for his life. And obviously, look at all the talent that he
Constant.
lost to the NFL the previous
Yeah.
year.
Yep.
Nobody is gonna, achieve the same level of success after losing all that talent that he did.
Exactly.
And obviously, Kenny Pickett had a monster season, but I question him a little bit. I totally don't blame the Steelers for taking him.
No.
When they did, I was a little surprised that he went where he did.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, I'm a Howell fan more than the Pickett fan. It's not I'm not knocking Pickett necessarily. It's just I just felt Howell has been better and he's proven it. It's just Howell or the bet. Kenny Pickett had arguably one of the best wide receivers in college football with him for those years with Jordan Addison, and he did. I don't think any of the guys that Carolina had were quite to his level.
No.
I don't think they were good, but not to that level. Even Josh Downs, who we figure we'll see plenty of this year. But yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that one, Joe.
Number 16, Miami. And this has been such an oddball program for so many reasons. And if you're a Miami fan, this has got to be frustrating that you how many coaches have you been through over the last 10 years? And, and you get your hopes up and there's all this media pumps out the U is back, it's clickbait because it's not going to produce for a while. Cristobal might be the guy who actually makes it happen. But if you're a Miami fan, you got to be patient. You guys get so impatient with your team and your coaches. It blows me away sometimes. Some of the stuff when you go on message boards and stuff and you look at what's being written up after one bad game or just coming out short on the short end of the stick. It's like, oh my God, man. And I think that's part of the reason why Will and I don't have a lot of sympathy for you as a Miami fan. If you're coming out with that crap, it's like, come on, man. Number one, the U is not back. You will be back maybe under Cristobal with a season or two. Okay. And if they start delivering consistency on wins and they build slowly but surely offense and defense and are consistent. And at that point, both of us will do a U, but right now it's not. It's not just patience. Let it, get those pieces together, man.
Yeah. And the thing that really stood out about Miami's class is a lot of those guys came aboard once Cristobal was hired. I think a lot of people were hesitant to commit to Miami because they kind of knew that there was a coaching change in the works. And some of them were probably waiting for, the official word on Cristobal. And once they got that word, hey, we'll come play for you. Sure. Yeah. Let's go. They have the talent to compete in the Coastal this year just because, Pitt's going to be down, but I still think they have the talent around them to be the favorite. I think it's Pitt and Miami at this point, and maybe a gap between like Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and not in that order, but just naming a tier.
Yeah.
But the talent that they're bringing in to Miami, I think it will really help. They obviously did really well in the portal. I do have questions still about the skill positions a little bit. They did lose some players who graduated finally. And yeah, I think, and Tyler Van Dyke, he's a stud. Yeah.
Was that a subtle shot there?
And Tyler Van Dyke is a stud. We saw that as the season progressed. Once he got a little more comfortable in the offense, he looked really good and looked like someone who I've seen him as a potential pick in next year's draft. I believe he's be a redshirt sophomore. after this season. So yeah, he could easily go pro after this year. They're already putting that out there.
Yeah. I think you hit that on the head, right? I'm processing about what his status is, and I'm it's not coming up, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Being the 16th ranked recruiting class of 22 is certainly going to help them, and I think it'll help launch Cristobal's reunion and get the U back on track. I do want it's like every team within the conference. I want to see them do well. The stronger every one of these links are in this chain, the more dominant the ACC is, and that's ultimately what I want to see. And I know that again, I always say this. I know it drives some people crazy because you've got Pitt fans, Miami fans, Florida State fans, Virginia Tech fans, Virginia fans, who are all out there going, "Are you out of your minds? I hate that team. I don't want to see them do well." Why do you want to see them do well? What are you, one of these people? Do you think that they say SEC down in the Southeast Conference, and it doesn't matter? This is me, okay? And that's where I'm coming from. I want to see all these teams do well, because if they're all doing well, then we don't have to listen to you're the SEC's little brother. You'll never be anything more than a basketball league, blah, 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 all the crap that we normally hear. And, when you're training a puppy, there people will do this, and I don't agree with it, but if your puppy takes a dump on the carpet, people will rub the dog's nose in it. That's what ultimately I want to do with Paul Feinbaum when the ACC dominates the SEC. So just so that you know, Paul, coming to rub your nose in it, buddy.
All those ACC guys are talking about you again.
That's right.
Haven't busted that out in a while.
No, you haven't.
Thanks for giving me the excuse.
Hey, anytime. All right, number 21, FSU. FSU is slowly but surely, and this is another fan base is very impatient. Of course, you've been on this roller coaster, and I think things are slowly starting to turn the corner now. We did talk about the fact that out of the coaches in the ACC, the people that may be on the hot seat, Norvell might be a little bit on a warm seat. But I don't think that's realistic. I think we just lay off of Norvell being in on a hot seat. This season.
Yeah, this season. Yeah. I think people need to realize where the program was, where it was almost not, it wasn't at rock bottom, but it was like a notch or two above that. So it was close, but it wasn't at rock bottom.
Close to that flaming dumpster we see in memes. So.
Yes, exactly. They were almost there. But what Norvell's done is he's built, he's recruiting a lot. The recruiting's gotten a lot better there. No, not where you would expect it to be, as was like on the early Jimbo days, but he's still getting really good quality commits and who are going to fill a lot of needs. Obviously, use the transfer portal pretty well. There's a kid they got from Albany who has been the rave of spring camps, who might be the next Jermaine Johnson, maybe not to his level, but kind of in terms of impact.
Sure.
People are saying he could be on that level, but I think this is a year where Florida State could make a bowl, and I think that's the right direction to go. You're going to have to build up I don't think you're quite there in the Atlantic race. I still think there's a few teams better than you.
Yep.
But just, have another successful season, stack up another solid recruiting class like this, and you can be a contender again within a year or two.
That's right. And all anybody's looking for here, realistically speaking, we don't nothing against Clemson winning. Don't want to see the same team winning all the time and dominating like that. I mean, really, if you have a team in the SEC and and it's Alabama, 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 year after year after year, it gets old. It gets old. Now, it may not for Crimson Tide fans. Hey, good for you. Roll Tide. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, uh, it builds a lot of resentment, and there is nothing better than a lot of competition. And it would be great to see Florida State get back to that position where they are, maybe not the dominant team, but certainly the team that can knock off Clemson at any given moment or anybody else at any given moment. Back to being a power team where they were at one time. And, as Bobby would say, dadgummit, they need to be there. And I think it'll be fun to see them create, that firestorm within that side of the conference. And so that it's not just one team all the time. It's just, you don't know when these two teams get together on a Saturday or on a Friday night or whenever they play. It's going to be a wild event. It's going to be so much fun. And it may come out like, a point difference, or from year to year, it might be a 14+ point blowout. Who knows? But the fact is that you want that excitement. And that's what we're looking for Florida State coming back. At number 34, Will, is Virginia Tech. This doesn't surprise me at all, 34, but being in the top 50 recruiting wise is not a bad place to be for a new coach. We'll talk a little more about that and what we're seeing trend wise, which I think is a little disturbing for 23. But right now, this is a mid-tier team, as you had indicated earlier.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job of keeping this class together, given the coaching change. And I think this is kind of the benefit of getting rid of your coach at the point of the season that they did with, getting rid of the previous coach and Fuente, Justin Fuente.
How soon we forget.
Literally, I'm sitting here like I knew all the clues in my head. I'm like, former Memphis coach. Why can I not think of his name? And it was Justin Fuente. But he did a really good job of getting this class together. And then between Brent Pry and getting in, he obviously has a lot of experience recruiting in Virginia too, and he's able to get a lot of those kids to stick around. Kind of sold the vision of the future. And a lot of those kids stuck around. They believed in what he was selling. So yeah, props for getting this class to for the most part stay. It will, this will benefit them in a couple of years when these guys are either juniors or redshirt sophomores or whatnot. I think this is it's an interesting recruiting class from the standpoint. Yeah, they have a potential, a lot of potential on the defense with this class. But yeah, it's like I say, this is going to be one of those ones where the fruit might bear, a couple of years down the road.
Right. I actually think there will be a quicker turnaround for the Hokies than people might imagine. I have a good vibe with Pry. I just feel like this is the guy that they needed. And if they support him, which Virginia Tech is good about doing, they gave Fuente too long, but they supported him. They tried to help him make something happen, and he just wasn't capable of making it happen. I think Brent Pry is the guy who can make it happen. And I think that the Hokies fans are behind that and are supportive, and the fundraising efforts that have been going on with the program down there have been very successful. And I think that the program as a whole is going in the right direction. Now, is it going to take a year or two? This is where this transfer portal is so maddening. Well, my God, it's like I sympathize with these coaches because you know you can have these huge black holes of lack of talent on your team and not be really sure as to whether or not you're going to have anything to really talk about next season. And then in the course of several weeks or several months, the transfer portal can bring all of that to you. And the next thing you know, what we saw in the spring game, which was horrible. I'm not talking about the Hokies here. I'm just talking conjecture here. If the spring game looked sucky, then all of a sudden you have a couple of weeks, a couple of months to work that transfer portal. And the next thing you know, come fall, you're laying waste to people and people are going, how did that happen? This is the kind of stuff that keeps these guys up late at night and gives them headaches. But this is what turns teams around now on the college level. And we're going to see a lot more of it. The people who know how to play this game and play this aspect of the game are going to be the winning coaches. And I think you'll see it there and a couple other teams too. They'll build quickly.
Yeah, it's the good and bad of the transfer portal, because if you can easily get the players you need to fill a position, but you can also lose the depth at a position if they're not playing to the level they want.
Right. And you throw the NIL in there and boom,
Yep.
You got a real mess. Yep. Now, speaking of NIL, the really interesting situation with a player on the next team that we're going to talk about was reached out to by a couple of firms, sort of an indirect sort of thing. And there was several six-figure offers, NIL offers, to get him to enter the transfer portal and go to specific teams. One of them was $600,000. We'll tell you who that player is in just a moment if you haven't heard this. Let's talk about Boston College at number 40. This is a team that may be a surprise this season because I kind of came out of this past year thinking, okay, we've lost some of the talent and it's going to be gone. And so there's going to be some readjustment.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the recruiting class they brought in at Boston College. They were a team that for a while were ranked in the top 40 or not top 40, but top 20 to 30 until like all the, the big time 4 and 5 stars started committing. But this is kind of a big year for Jeff Hapley, and getting a recruiting class like this is only going to help. They brought in a bunch of brought in a couple of 4 stars actually to help on both sides, a safety and a wide receiver, real nice finds there. And it's a big deal for Boston College to get, such a highly touted recruiting class, because Boston's not exactly a bastion of college football, whatever, but I really think this is going to bode well for this team if they can, continue to build this momentum. They obviously have a lot back for them this season. Even we talked about Zay Flowers and turning down all the NIL money to stick around because he has his own NIL deal with BC, in which he got a B&W out of the deal. So, pretty sweet gig.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there. Yep. Zay Flowers. And, I read up a little bit on that, and he had his family, there's 14 kids, and mom has passed away. Dad is basically working his rear end off to keep those 14, on a roof over their head and fed. And this was an opportunity that he felt like maybe was something that could help out. And his dad pretty much told him, I want you to continue with Boston College. I want you to stay there. And that was the right thing also for Zay. Zay also indicated, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. That's where I want to be. So, and this is a guy that's going to go pretty high in the NFL draft. So, um,
Yes, for sure. He knows he's going to make his money in the NFL next year.
right. So that's pretty cool. Now, 22, the ACC, the remaining ACC plus one teams, and I'm not going to tell you where they're ranked. That may be a point of frustration for some of you fans, but going out of the top 50 into the next 50, and this is 50 to 100. Duke is next, followed by Georgia Tech, Louisville, NC State, Virginia, Syracuse, Wake Forest, and Pitt is last on that list. So I think it bodes well that Duke is at least as high as they are there. So and that's a real challenge for any coach to take that program and to build and to recruit. It just is, period.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a big fan of the Mike Elko hire. He obviously he's got a great defensive background, and that's something that Duke has struggled at for many years. And getting a guy like him who's been a defensive coordinator at quite a few places and has had success everywhere, I think this is going to be a team that this year may be a little rough, but let's be real. Give this team a year or two, and they're going to be you're not going to laugh at them anymore. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really think that Elko is the guy to, again, I think, we talked about, we needed to see this team go to the next level. And the only way to do that was to get a new coach. And that's what they've done. And I think it was a good move to get fresh blood in. I always hate to say that because, I mean, hey, folks, I got plenty of gray, okay, and there's a reason for that. So I always look at it from the perspective of being somebody who is older and going, well, let's not push the old guys out the door just yet. There's plenty to offer, but realistically, there are just some fields and some businesses, and what we were talking about earlier with Dabo and the NIL and the transfer portal and all that. He's much too young to go out, but he's becoming familiarized with the system enough that it's starting to benefit him. He's starting to see the benefits of it and knowing how to work it. Elko is in that same vein. He is somebody who is young enough and has enough exposure to that mindset that he's not going to be run over by it. He's going to use it to his advantage and help build Duke into something new and exciting. Really looking forward to the Blue Devils getting back to a point where they have some success football wise, because I think they may need it in about a year or two if my gut tells me anything about the basketball program. So I may be wrong about that, but hope I am. We'll see. Let's talk a little bit real quickly before we get into the 23 list of recruiting teams. D1 baseball top 25. Virginia Tech is at number 5. Miami 6, Louisville 7. Louisville on the rise there. Virginia is at number 12 and also on the rise. Notre Dame 16, holding steady. FSU is 21 and on the rise, and Georgia Tech has dropped out. Softball top 25. Virginia Tech is number 2. Florida State is number 3. Duke is at number 7 and on the rise. Clemson at 16, holding steady. 18 is Notre Dame, and they're on the rise. Lacrosse, tennis, and golf action is underway, and we're going to keep an eye on all of that stuff that's going on. There's tons of, we've got NCAA tennis and golf action going on. Also, the NCAA lacrosse tournament. All that stuff is going on. Beach volleyball, which is not an ACC sport, but the Seminoles play in that. They were the number 5 seed, and they went all the way to the championship. They lost to USC, who is the number 1 seed, 3-1, and that was over the weekend. The women's golf regionals, as I mentioned earlier, the first round, some noteworthy things. Albuquerque, Louisville is at number 7, Stillwater, Clemson 2, and North Carolina State 7. In the Franklin Regional, Duke is tied for 1 with Alabama. Wake Forest is at 5. Ann Arbor, Virginia is tied for 4th. UNC is tied for 6th. Virginia Tech 11. And Tallahassee, it's Florida State at number 2. And Miami is tied for 4. So a lot of sports going on. Let's get into the next level here. 23. We're looking at the 24/7 college recruiting rankings, and we're looking at 2023. We looked at 2022, and let's jump right into it. The ACC +1, and we'll talk about the very first team on the list, period, the top 5, Notre Dame. We'll get into that here in just a minute. This is interesting because we've got a new coach, and thank goodness for you guys in South Bend. Baton Rouge couldn't have gotten a better coach. Number 2, Texas Tech. Number 3, Georgia. Number 4, Ohio State. And number 5, Penn State. It's interesting to see how things are, at least at this point, in the top 5. Notre Dame at number 1. This should bode very well, because I think you got a recruiter in there at head coach now, a real recruiter. So.
Yeah, and you can go back to our conversation on Notre Dame back during basketball season. We talked about, they even back then they had the number 1 class in the country, and they obviously still hold that title as of this point here in early to mid-May, because Marcus Freeman's been able to hold on to these kids, and he is just he has that energy about him that just it resonates with these kids, and they believe in him. And I'm excited to see that, because I think that's really cool to see them have so much success on a recruiting trail so far. Obviously, it's only 12 commits, and we're still 7 months out from signing day, so a lot can change. But I still think Notre Dame is going to end up with a top 10 class at worst.
Yeah, when Josh from One Foot Down joined us, and he was pretty pumped about the direction the team is going, and especially with recruiting, and look forward to talking to him in the weeks to come about Notre Dame and what's going on there. Got a lot of great insight there. Check out Josh at 1 Foot Down if you're a Notre Dame fan. Let's get into the rest of the ACC +1 teams. In the top 50, it's Louisville at number 8. So how about that? Coming out of the 50 to 100 range for 22, and they are at number 8 for 23. And they do need to do some reloading after this season for sure.
Yeah, for sure. They say they're up to 9 commits so far to this, and they're led by a couple of big time 4-star kids. Had a lot of success recruiting California, actually. That's been kind of their bread and butter of this recruiting cycle so far. Obviously, this is a big year for Scott Satterfield, because I think his Seattle region could be a little warm, and obviously they're probably going to lose Malik Cunningham after the season. I think he's going to go pro, but they have a quarterback in this class that I think could very well be in the mix to start in 23, along with a defensive back who could very well contribute right away. And I'm very curious to see, how if they can hold on to these kids, and you see where things hold, because they say they could be a team to watch in 23.
So our next 3 teams are teams that were in the top 50 of the 22 rankings, and that was Florida State, number 14, at number 25, dropping off a little further, Clemson. But of course, as you indicated, Will, there's plenty of time to pick up a lot of other people as we go along. At number 26, now this is a significant rise here. Boston College is definitely, moving forward, and this is a team I think that we need to keep a very close eye on down the road, because again, they're much like Wake Forest in that, when you're a smaller school, and sometimes with Boston College, it's a little different media wise than it is for Wake Forest. Wake Forest just sort of gets lost in the larger context of things. In North Carolina, It's not that Winston-Salem isn't a big market. It is.
Right.
It's just that, everything tends to be basically Greensboro East. And so that's where you're getting all the publicity and all the coverage, the name teams, the Dukes, the North Carolinas, the NC States, because they're
Mhm.
there where you've got the population and et cetera. Wake Forest doesn't get as much because
Right.
of where they are, and they're smaller. Boston College, slightly different story. They're in a big market, but they're competing with a bunch of other schools and professional teams galore. And that's a killer for a team that is in a conference where they haven't really done anything spectacular. They're starting to
Yeah.
change that in both football and basketball. I think basketball is something else we need to keep an eye on, Boston College. So it's exciting where Boston College is here at number 26.
Yeah, for sure. And you say they're trying to fight for attention with, the Red Sox, who are a perennial playoff team. Maybe not so much this year. The Patriots, we all need to know. We all know about that. Obviously, the Celtics are in the playoffs. The Bruins are in the playoffs this year, and you're now, now they're fighting. They're at best fifth in the in the in the pecking order, and they're what, a 7-8 win team the first couple of years. They need to take that next step forward in order to maybe get a little more attention in that town. And and one of the things I've heard, and this is a friend of the show, AJ Black, has said this before about uh, Jeff Halfley is a really good evaluator, and sometimes he is in on big time recruit big time players before the big schools are. Like he sees them as like, oh, what they're supposed to be before the other schools do, but then the other schools do and then offer them, and they don't necessarily stand a chance. But he is a good evaluator of talent, and I think that is a critical thing. And it's on him and his staff to develop. They obviously have some coaching changes there this year we'll get into down the road more so, but yeah, this is getting continuing to get good commits in, and stack up these good recruiting classes will only help.
At number 28 is Wake Forest. Dave Clawson has really made a big dent here in improving his defense. So you're going to see it not only in the kids that are coming in 23, but I think also this season, the 22 class is also going to make a big dent. That's one of the areas where they've had issues. They've got the offense rolling. Now, if they can just shut down the other team and prevent them from scoring or cut the scores in half, because some of it's just ridiculous how many points they're putting up, and going tit for tat through an entire game and running up 100 some plus points every game is a killer. And
Yeah.
if your defense can start delivering, which I think they're going to, man, this is going to really be an exciting team, and people will be talking about Wake Forest, and not, more so than they are right now, a lot more.
Yeah, you're right, Jim. And you mentioned it. Defense has been an issue for several years, and they need to recruit better there, develop better. We obviously know they can do that offensively, but when you say you put up 100 points a game, both combined with both teams, it's good and bad. Obviously, you can, but you got to be able to stop people if you're going to be a consistent, consistent winner in college football. And getting in there, and obviously one of their staples is get in, red shirt, develop and get older, and then you develop by your third year maybe. And that's been kind of their key to their program for as long as Clawson's been there. So, but yeah, this is a real nice job. They're getting in on these kids early. Hope they can develop this defensive talent and be a contender in the Atlantic.
Up next is number 29 is Miami, and I think that what we see here is even though that's a slip of 13 in the rankings from 22 to 23, I don't think that's anything to even really to worry about, as you kind of laid out earlier. At this point, it's sometimes that's the difference between having a couple of fours as opposed to a couple of twos or a couple of fives, just threes,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, you know, and those point rankings sometimes are very misleading. You have to
Mhm.
delve into it a little deeper. I think they're fine there. Um,
Yeah, they only have 5 commits and 4 of them are from Miami. So that really tells you where they're recruiting hardest right now.
yeah. Well, and I think that's a good thing. There's plenty of awesome football players in Florida. I tell you, Texas, Florida, Georgia, you can't go wrong.
Mhm.
At number 36 is Virginia Tech. They're not too far off from where they are in 22. Um, this it's early, but if I don't see this moving up, um, they need to be 30 or better.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like I said, they only have 5 commits to this point. They're trying to right now. They're really working on the offensive line. They've got 3 commits on the O line, and then an athlete, and then a defensive lineman. We're seeing a lot of. They obviously have had a lot of issues, a lot of losses. I should say it's not so much issues, but losses on the offensive line, whether it be drafting. See Christian Darisaw here in Minnesota for whatever, for example, and some graduations. They need to replenish the talent. And that's what they're working on for this class.
Yep. At number 43 in our top 50 ACC plus one, 43, it's NC State. They have an awesome team this season, and they're going to have to do some reloading, I think. And I think 43 it's okay. It's better than 22, but I think they're also going to have to push up the ladder a bit.
And I think they will. Only 3 commits to this point. Not and they're all in-state kids, so they're obviously just trying to work on the home kids first before they start reaching out some more. But I think we'll see them go quite a bit higher before the cycle is done.
Up in the 50 to 100 range is North Carolina, Pitt, Duke, Syracuse, Virginia. I tell you what concerns me a little bit is that Pitt is in the 50 to 100 range for both 22 and 23.
Yeah, it's weird, but I'm curious by this. If they, I don't follow Pitt recruiting very closely, but I wonder if it's a numbers game. Like they couldn't take a whole lot of people in the 22 class, or they just were swinging and missing a lot. And you say it's too early in 20 for the 23 class to really know what's going on there. They do have a 4-star commit from a quarterback there, Kenny Minchie out of Tennessee, who looks pretty good. So yeah, they've still got a long ways to go with this class, but I think they'll be a really they'll do a lot better, I think.
Um, a reminder for everyone, every year during the summer, we have football previews for the ACC plus one.
Mhm.
And we're going to start in early June this year.
Yep.
Because basically you're talking 15 weeks, so that's going to fill up the summer pretty rapidly. We have of course, leading right up to the very first games of the season for ACC teams, which is going to be on Saturday, August 27th in week 0, Duquesne at Florida State and Florida A&M at North Carolina.
So
Two
they're not really games as much as they are like exhibition.
tune-ups.
Yep, tune-ups for the
Um,
real deal.
I won't call either one of those cupcake games because they're
I will.
not. Yeah, I know you will, but I'm not going to go there with these two teams. Opponents can deliver. They're not going to win, I don't think, unless something just absolutely off the cuff happens. But we're going to have a preview roundup, and of course, our picks and stuff like that are going to be for week 0 on somewhere right around August 24th. So again, the early part of June is when we start to do our previews. We'll have special guests, and we'll be talking with people a lot about what to expect out of teams this fall and what they've seen so far this season, and maybe get some special insight into stuff. I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's every year we've done that. We've had some excellent guests on. We know a lot of great people. The 1 year that we did the voices of was a lot of fun, having the guys who do the play-by-play and color for all the teams was a lot of fun having those guys and talking to them, because there were some things that were said that were surprising in a few instances.
Yeah, I remember that. The Miami one was classic.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens this season. And like I said, that's coming up. So make sure that you subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can follow us on internet radio, no matter where you are in the world. Make sure that you get onto your favorite platform. And if we're not there, request that we're added. We have people from all over the world who are listening, and we really appreciate it. I know that you folks love ACC sports, college sports from America, and we love to provide it to you. Also, we're on YouTube, so if you think that you can stomach looking at our two mugs for more than a few seconds at a time, join us on YouTube. We're at ACC Nation. It's real simple to find. It's accnation.net is the website. And and Will is lighting his lighter right at the moment. The only thing I will tell you, Will, is that watch your beard. So
I've got it far enough away. Don't worry.
That's good. Hey, and one final note here. Of interest is something that we have just done, and this is sort of reflecting all the changes that may or may not occur in social media. We have added a couple of extra avenues for you to check us out. So you can go to our website at accnation.net, and it will take you to the likes of Mastodon, which is one of them. We have a lot of social media, and the other one, which just right off the top of my head, I've already forgotten. That's because it's so
On
new.
our social.
Yes, it's oh gosh, I've got a note here real quickly as I stumble through. Here we go. Counter Social. Counter Social is the alleged answer to Elon Musk and Twitter if things go astray. So we thought we'd add those and start sending some information down the line on those two platforms as well. So we're trying to catch as many people as possible. And if you are on those, then you can look us up. Again, it's real simple, ACC Nation. You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Reddit. It's a non-stop list. So
we're everywhere,
and we try. And if we can't be, we will find a way. So it's real simple. Looking forward to stuff starting in early June. And until then, we'll be talking probably a lot about baseball, because we're going to get into the ACC baseball tournament, which is coming up very, very soon. So you folks keep it right here at accnation.net, and we hope to see you next time.
Scored.